These are the 20 sailors who stand between a billion-dollar warship and complete annihilation. In the dimly lit Combat Information Center of a U.S. Navy destroyer, surrounded by glowing screens and the constant hum of electronics, they face what military experts call the most intense naval combat since World War II. Over the past 15 months in the Red Sea, Navy ships have engaged more than 400 incoming missiles and drones. That's more air defense missiles fired than in all the years since Operation Desert Storm combined. But to understand how extraordinary this is, we need to go inside the nerve center where split-second decisions mean the difference between going home and going down with the ship. The Combat Information Center, or CIC, serves as the tactical brain of every U.S. Navy surface combatant. Picture a room buried deep within the ship's hull, deliberately placed away from windows and external threats. The walls are lined with radar displays, communication systems, and computer terminals that track everything moving within a 200-mile radius. At the center of it all sits the Tactical Action Officer, or TAO, who has the authority to fire millions of dollars worth of missiles without asking anyone's permission. This setup exists because of a tragedy that happened 57 years ago. On October 21, 1967, the Israeli destroyer Eilat was sailing off the coast of Egypt when Soviet-built Styx missiles came screaming across the water at nearly the speed of sound. The ship's crew never saw them coming. In seconds, 47 sailors died and the Eilat rested on the bottom of the Mediterranean. That single attack revolutionized naval warfare and sparked the development of the most sophisticated ship defense system ever built, Aegis. The name Aegis comes from Greek mythology, the protective shield of Zeus himself. But unlike the mythological shield, this one had to be built from scratch. In 1970, Captain Wayne Meyer was handed what seemed like an impossible task: create a system that could detect, track, and destroy multiple incoming missiles simultaneously. Meyer's solution was elegantly simple in concept, but brutally complex in execution. Detect, control, engage. The detect phase relies on the AN/SPY-1 radar, a 6-megawatt phased array system that can track over 100 targets at more than 100 nautical miles. Those 4 flat panels you see on the superstructure of every modern U.S. Navy destroyer and cruiser, each one pumps out enough electromagnetic energy to power a small city. The radar sweeps the sky continuously, painting everything from commercial aircraft at 30,000 feet to sea-skimming missiles just 10 feet above the waves. But here's where it gets terrifying. A subsonic cruise missile flying at 500 miles per hour and 300 feet altitude will only be detected at 34 miles due to the Earth's curvature. That gives the CIC crew exactly 4 minutes from detection to impact. 4 minutes to identify the threat, determine if it's hostile, select the appropriate weapon, get permission to fire, and launch an interceptor. In those 4 minutes, 20 different people might touch that engagement, each one a potential point of failure. The control phase is where human judgment meets artificial intelligence. The Aegis combat system can theoretically operate in full automatic mode, detecting and engaging threats without human intervention. But Navy doctrine requires human authorization for each engagement, creating a constant tension between speed and accountability. The TAO must weigh not just the threat to their ship, but the possibility of shooting down a commercial airliner or friendly aircraft. Bradley Martin, a retired surface warfare officer, describes the challenge. The things that make the environment really busy are just trying to manage threats, trying to manage traffic, trying to manage the general environment. Imagine trying to conduct an orchestra where half the musicians are actively trying to kill you, and you'll understand what it's like inside a CIC during combat operations. The engage phase is where physics takes over. Standard Missile 2 interceptors, costing $2.1 million each, accelerate to over Mach 3.5 and use radar homing to find their targets. The newer SM-6 missiles, at $3.9 million apiece, can engage targets over 150 miles away. And for ballistic missile threats, the SM-3 uses kinetic energy to literally smash into incoming warheads, traveling at 15 times the speed of sound. Each SM-3 costs between $9.6 and $27.9 million, more expensive than most people's houses. But these systems had never been tested like they were on October 19, 2023, when the destroyer USS Carney detected multiple incoming threats in the Red Sea. The ship's SPY-1 radar lit up with contacts racing toward them from the Yemeni coast. In what became the opening engagement of a 15-month campaign, Carney successfully destroyed 4 cruise missiles and 15 drones, the largest single-ship air defense engagement in naval history. What makes this even more remarkable is the nature of the threat. The Iranian-backed Houthis weren't using billion-dollar weapon systems. They were launching modified Iranian drones that cost roughly $2,000 each and repurposed anti-ship missiles. The headlines love to point out that the Navy was using $2 million missiles to shoot down $2,000 drones. But that misses the point entirely. A single successful hit could sink a $2.5 billion Arleigh Burke-class destroyer and kill 300 sailors. From that perspective, every intercept becomes a bargain. As retired Navy Commander Brian Clark notes, "It's kind of amazing how the Navy has held up with no losses, but the cost has been pretty enormous." Indeed, the Navy has spent nearly $1 billion in munitions over 15 months, but not a single sailor has been killed by enemy action. The psychological toll on the crews has been immense. Sailors aboard these ships describe months of high alert, where every watch could bring another wave of incoming missiles. The combat information centers that were designed for brief, intense engagements suddenly found themselves in prolonged combat operations. Fatigue became a weapon in itself. This became tragically apparent on December 22, 2024, when the cruiser USS Gettysburg shot down an F/A-18 Super Hornet from their own carrier. The investigation revealed that watchstanders in Gettysburg's CIC were suffering from physiological and psychological factors that impaired their decision-making. Months of combat operations had created what the report called a pressurized schedule and a culture of just get it done. The friendly fire incident exposed the human cost of sustained naval combat operations. These aren't video games or training exercises. They're real people making life-and-death decisions under crushing pressure. The heavily redacted investigation report faulted the sailors for being poorly trained and overly reliant on technology. But perhaps more telling was the revelation that crews felt overwhelmed by the operational tempo. The scale of the Red Sea operations dwarfs anything the Navy has faced in decades. The USS Carney alone destroyed 65 targets during its deployment. The Eisenhower Carrier Strike Group fired 155 Standard missiles and 135 Tomahawk cruise missiles. Aircraft from the carrier expended nearly 60 air-to-air missiles and released 420 air-to-surface weapons. All told, Navy ships, aircraft, and submarines have engaged more than 400 Houthi weapons since October 2023. But perhaps the most telling statistic is this: it will take years for the Navy to replenish its missile inventory. Brian Clark warns that if the United States and China went to war today, most estimates are within a few days of combat that the U.S., the Navy in particular, would run out of weapons. The Red Sea campaign has also revealed the limitations of even the most advanced systems. Radar operators regularly deal with leaders, false contacts that appear to be missiles racing toward the ship at impossible speeds before suddenly disappearing. The curvature of the Earth limits detection ranges for low-flying threats. Electronic warfare jamming can blind sensors at critical moments, and human fatigue can turn the most sophisticated combat information center into a liability. Yet the system has worked. As of January 2025, no U.S. Navy ship has been struck by enemy fire. 0 American sailors have been killed in action. The Aegis combat system, conceived in the aftermath of the Eilot's destruction, has fulfilled its promise of protecting the fleet. The tactical innovations emerging from this campaign will reshape naval warfare for decades. The Navy has shifted from using expensive Standard missiles against cheap drones to employing less costly Sidewinder air-to-air missiles and Hellfire missiles. Each Sidewinder costs about $500,000, while Hellfire runs around $150,000. Still expensive, but a fraction of the cost of a Standard missile. Looking ahead, the lessons from these combat information centers will drive the next generation of naval defense systems. Artificial intelligence will play a larger role in threat identification and engagement decisions. Directed energy weapons, essentially military lasers, promise to provide low-cost per-shot defense against drone swarms. And new manufacturing techniques may finally address the missile shortage that has become a strategic vulnerability. But at the heart of it all will still be those 20 sailors in a darkened combat information center, watching screens full of contacts and making decisions that ripple across geopolitics. They represent the human element that no amount of technology can replace: the judgment, experience, and courage to defend their ship and their shipmates. The next time you see a Navy destroyer cutting through the waves, remember that buried deep within its hull sits a room full of people who have mastered one of the most complex and dangerous jobs on Earth. They are the guardians of the modern fleet, standing watch in the digital age equivalent of a castle's battlements. And in the Red Sea, over the past 15 months, they have proven that the shield of Aegis still protects those who sail in harm's way.